Welcome into the First Call Plus. I hope the weekend has been good to you thus far. Time now to take a look at a couple of races on the undercard from both Taranaki and Rotorua on Saturday. Let's take the fifth race from New Plymouth as our first race we're looking at. Dennis Wheeler Earth Moving 1600 with Cappuccini, or how did we say that?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Cappuccini?
Yeah.
Cappuccini? Jonathan
it's
Parks?
Chini.
Cappuccini.
I went onto the old Google pronunciation site.
Cappuccini. Okay, $3. Is that a price you'd triple your money?
Very good in the last couple. Those last two wins have been strong, winning form. Jonathan Parks aboard again for the Baker Forsman team, and it's got to be right in the mix here. Those other horses, Time Bomb and Fortius, who are in the market, are bringing good form as well. But here's Cappuccini, and in the I think this is a three-quarter, so you think, isn't it? Yeah, the three-quarter. So obviously very well bred, and now winning 3 of the last 4, showing pretty much the same sort of form as the sibling.
I thought this was an excellent run, Aidan. This really was a good run at Hastings, beating home Money Trail, Ciroc, Bevan Street, Vinevale. So all those form lines tie in at a genuine rating 75 level. She has to carry 4 kilos more, so that's not going to make it as easy, but I don't think the depth of this field is any different to that race at Hastings. She'll need to be a little bit improved, but she's definitely the one to beat for me.
The combination of going up 4 kilograms and then copping a heavier track, is that the biggest concern?
I get the feeling that she'll get through sort of a slow to heavy track, but maybe she doesn't want it quite so bad. In fairness, it's a little bit of a guess because we haven't seen her sort of really try under race day conditions, those circumstances, but she just seems to be hooked into the right form, and I want to be on that train until I'm told to get off.
Now, Stu Lang's anchored Jessie G in the first league of his suggested quality on tab.co.nz, where you will find all of that information. How do you assess Jessie G after that first up effort?
Real positive, going up in distance to 1600. Her best form is over that trip. She can come to form reasonably quickly. Drawn a little bit awkwardly, where she'll get in the run, not quite sure. She's run some, very good races, having a little bit of cover and sitting just behind the main sort of speed. But yeah, she'll come to hand fast. That apprentice allowance would be a positive.
Yeah, down to 55.5. The trial leading into that first up run was only a fair trial, I thought, as well, and then obviously did a little bit of work early and didn't kick on last time out. The second up record is good, and obviously the first preparation she'd shown oodles of ability. For me, I'm just prepared to just say I want to see her one more time before I'm on. But good on Stu, he's going to strike while the price is at its best.
What about Alibaba?
2 from 28. It's a horse who doesn't win them out of turn. The last start run had a lot of merit, was finishing on strongly for third. Sean Mackay did the riding from barrier 4, so there's a few positives there. The more I looked at it, I thought it was a Cappuccini race. I thought Fortius offered a little bit here. The wet track form is fine, and I thought that last start run had a little bit of merit to it. I thought this horse would be primed.
Yeah, Alibaba hasn't won in over a year, but gee, he puts himself in the race. He's certainly got to be a top 3 consideration again. I agree with you, Fortius. As long as, he's shown that he has coped with slow and heavy tracks in the past, as long as the inside doesn't go off big time, yeah, he's going to be one of the hardest for Cappuccini to beat, but clearly on top for me.
Princess Dylan dropping back from a Wellington Cup last time out. That's an interesting prospect. Time Bomb on the home track.
Wasn't
really
she
good,
Princess Dylan, last preparation?
Yeah. Came through the ranks really fast.
Really looking forward to seeing where she goes this time in.
Let's move over to the Bridges Hotel, Rotorua 1400. It is race number 6 on the card, set to start at 3 p.m, $8 for Truman. Manhattan Flame, $6.50, then down to Aileen Grace at a barrier 15, a $7 prospect. Let's move down the page, and we've got a couple more there, and the best supported of those, probably Storytime, but probably looks unlikely to get a start, to be fair, Aidan.
Yeah, there's a few here who are, Storytime was terrific as a 3-year-old filly. In those Ellerslie races, the 8 Carat and Royal Stakes, she was a high class filly. These days with Stephen Marsh used to be with the Rainers. You were keen on Truman here. Can you just talk us through the form there?
Yeah, just look, I thought second up, and it was a horse who I think is going to be better over the 1400 metre trip around Rotorua, especially on on what is a testing track. And it's one of those horses, Aidan, I think, through its last campaign, it's one that you follow and you're more hopeful that with that run under its belt, it's going to be an improvement.
Well, we were talking about Te Rapa and getting back and not being in the right place. This was one of those horses, you just got too far back at Te Rapa resuming. You're expecting real improvement second up into this, aren't you, Jason?
You'd think so, yeah. There are a lot of horses this weekend that fall into that category who are second up, and they'll be striking track conditions which are more testing than their fresh up runs. So quite how much it takes out of them, quite how ready they'll be, remains to be seen. But yeah, he's got an exceptional record under rain-affected conditions. Like Donoran, but I don't really have a handle on this race, I'll come clean. I have absolutely no handle on it whatsoever. But I look at a horse like Donoran Billy and say, well, she's in good form. She's got a good base of fitness underneath her, so it's just a case of quite how she'll get through track conditions. She gets through the dead, but she hasn't really performed on slow and heavy tracks. But look, she's a daughter of Tavistock, and you can't knock this. This is an 85. She drops back to a 75. This is Galaxy Miss and Grand Rio and Leeds. So, you know, it's a decent drop back in class.
Yeah, she
something vain on the inside.
Yeah, big time Shadows there, and is in 2 kilograms better than Shadows in this race. And obviously, Donoran Billy gets home track advantage as well, though. Shadows is another of those horses who got back at Te Rapa last time out, was running home nicely. And another of those type of horses is Pacquiao, who is getting a long way back at Te Rapa resuming, and has been given time to get over that, more time than the likes of Truman and company. So I thought Pacquiao had a lot of upside here and was a big factor for mine in this race.
You look at the horse finishing on and Manhattan Flame it was divergent paths, one going to rail, finishing on, and the other coming sort of centre track. Not a heck of a lot between them, in fairness.
No, exactly. And to be fair, Manhattan Flame actually comes in a touch better at the weights as well. But there was certainly an advantage being closer to the fence, although Pacquiao hasn't been that far off it.
And look, Manhattan Flame got that advantage of saving some ground going the inside. He did visually look to draw, and the sectional suggests that did draw on Pacquiao the last sort of 150.
Yeah,
but you'd say fresh up.
Flame on heavy tracks has won 3 of 4, and in the end they were the 2 that I'd got it down to. I thought the 3 and the 5, and in a race like you, Jason, I thought it was a really hard race, one of the hardest of the weekend.
All right, I won't ask you to single one out. What about Opera Night? It's a horse who's 6 times placed on a heavy track, has the aid of Opie Boston too, from what could be a favourable barrier draw by this part of the day.
Yeah, second up, we should be an improver on that run. We showed it on the first call on Friday, and that run for Kateo wasn't too bad. The horses were making ground and taking it off. Opera Night was on speed and stuck fairly. You'd expect improvement second up.
Yeah, one of those horses it sort of sits very similarly with 7 or 8 others. That's the nature of the race. So Donoran Billy, I'd be happy to spec each way at the price, with no confidence if the track gets to sort of a heavy 10-11, which is kind of what we're expecting.
Jason, what if there are a few scratchings and Storytime does get a start? Does that change the complexion at all?
Probably not. I don't know. Storytime she does have ability, but on a heavily rain-affected track, I'm not so sure.
Okay, all right. Good information there from Jason Tarn and Aidan Rodley here on the First Call Plus, tab.co.nz. You will find all of our betting information. Give us a follow on Twitter also at TAB Trackside, #TFC. Good luck on the punt over the weekend.